What's up, everybody? David Yakir here for Yak About Today, hoping you are better, healthier, and more informed than any generation that came before. So if the years 46 to 64 mean something to you, then this is the place you want to be. Now put your headphones on, go for a run, and listen to what we yak about today. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'm David Yakir, and I've been thinking. I've been thinking about a conversation we had at dinner last night. Now, the dinner itself was chicken enchiladas, and I might say it was one of the best enchilada dishes I've ever had, with a 3-bean Mexican salad and tres leches for dessert. So the conversation was about healthy eating. Each one of us had a different version of what that was. Carb diets, protein diets, light vegetarian versus vegan diets. And quite frankly, we didn't know how to think about it. So I've invited Dr. Robyn Odegaard, the co-founder of the Whole Food Muscle Club, to join us. Robyn is a former competitive volleyball player. She is a psychologist that holds a certificate from the Center for Nutrition Studies at Cornell University. And Robyn, I want to welcome you to Yak About Today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is my take on what you're doing. And I think I explained to you, and this is a specialty of yours, that our audience really is a 55-plus audience. Mm-hmm. And we don't use the word, the S word, which some people use, the senior word. Mm-hmm. We sometimes say the wiser and more mature of us. Mm-hmm. Right? So, what I like to do, and I think it's really important, and I think the audience likes it, judging by my email, is you have a story about you and your life that led you to the place you are right now. And I think it's important, especially people who are in the health field or who are doing recommendations on how people should eat, exercise, that type of thing. You always wonder how people came to that. So give us the story.
So I am a former competitive volleyball player, and my husband is a former competitive bodybuilder and trainer on the Mr. Olympia Tour. So when we were younger, we thought we had our act together. We knew how to eat. We were fine. But then I got to be a certain age, and suddenly my body decided, nope, don't like that way anymore. And I started gaining weight, and my cholesterol started creeping up, and I started being more tired. And I went to my doctor and I said, okay, what's going on? My body's on a rebellion. And she said, oh yeah, you're a certain age, that happens. There's not really anything you can do about it. You can take some cholesterol medication. And I decided that was not a good answer for me. And so because I am a researcher, I have a doctoral degree in psychology, I decided I was going to do my own research on nutrition. And I started taking classes and watching webinars and attending conferences. I went to Cornell and went to their Center for Nutrition Studies, and I learned so much. And what ended up happening is my clients, my executive coaching and speaker clients, started noticing that I was losing weight, I had more energy, my skin looked better, and they said, wait, what are you doing? What are you doing that's different than us? And that's kind of how this kind of came to be.
So I'm just curious. I want to step back because I'm really interested in the sport. So obviously, both of you are competitive in one way or another. He's a bodybuilder, and you are a competitive volleyball player. Mm-hmm. So that in itself is a starting point, isn't it? I mean, you were out there on the field. That's exercise. That's, everything you need to move and stay in shape. And, of course, he was concentrating on, I guess, bodybuilding and the cardiovascular thing. You had the cardiovascular thing going. He had the bodybuilding thing going, I guess. So that must have been a start.
And it's how we met. We met because, and we weren't children when we met each other, but we met because we were both in the gym. And it's kind of funny, you're right. I tend to be the person who is really excited about doing cardio, but I weightlift because it's good for me. And he tends to be the person who's really excited about weightlifting and does cardio because it's good for him.
So, okay, so you started getting healthier, right? And did he make any changes initially?
We did it together. It was one of those things where, he too, he's not any younger than I am, and he too was getting a little bit soft. And so when I first started learning about it, he's always been all about what's the healthiest way to eat. And so I started showing him the science. Here's what I'm learning. What do you think? And he actually lucked out on this because before we switched, He did all of our cooking, but now I do all of our cooking. So he's totally lucked out on this lifestyle change.
So, which is, and we're going to get to it soon, which is plant-based cooking, basically.
Yeah, plant-based,
and
yeah.
I want to talk about that at great length, only because I'm still, a lot of my audience who grew up in the generation of meat and potatoes, you know, really don't have a good understanding of what plant-based meals are. You know, they understand when they go to a restaurant and some outcast at the end of the table goes, "I'm a vegan," right? And they go, "What is that?" And the other one goes, "I'm a vegetarian," right? And what's the difference between the two? And then all of a sudden, a conversation comes about where, well, I don't even eat eggs, you know, or I only eat this. So actually, we're going to talk about the Whole Food Muscle Club. I was going to do it the opposite way, but I talked to us about plant-based eating.
So what plant-based eating is it's trying to make as much as your intake at whole food plants as possible. So I don't like to say, oh, I don't eat this, and I don't eat that, and I don't eat these things, because then it starts to sound really restrictive. Instead, there are 20,000 edible plants, probably more than that, on the planet. I eat all of those. And so it's more about focusing on the way you structure your meals. So most people, when you say, what do you want to eat? They name an animal product, a type of meat, or an egg, or whatever. That's where they start. Whereas when I think about what I eat, I start with a starch. Do I want beans? Do I want a sweet potato? Do I want grains? Do I want something like quinoa? And when you start at that place, what it gives you the opportunity to do is use the same kind of seasonings that you'd use if you started at a meat protein base. So you end up with the same flavors, you just have a different foundation that's better for fueling and giving your body nutrition.
So so you start with a carbohydrate, right? Where do you get your protein from, if not from meats?
That's a really good question, and it's an interesting game that the meat industry has played in making protein the king of all nutrients. You only need about 10% of your calories to be protein. You don't need that much protein in your diet as people think you do, and in fact, too much protein is very hard on your kidneys because it causes an acidity that your kidneys have to deal with. So all plants have protein. I get my protein from the same place a cow or a sheep or a goat does. I get it from the plants that I eat. For example, green peas are 26% protein.
So let me ask you a question, because I did an interview recently with a gentleman. Actually, he was famous for starting the stevia company, that sugar sweetener type of thing. But recently, he's gone into developing all keto-based products. And before the interview, he sent me his books on the keto diets, and we talked at great length. And, you know, I don't think I'm smart enough on the subject to be an arbiter of what's right, but I do understand plant-based eating. As you might expect, my friends in San Francisco seem to be in that place. But I live in a very, very meat and potato community. And sometimes when we have dinners, people talk about, you know, I love steak. I heard that there's this keto diet. You can eat all the steak you want. You can eat all that. So explain to me why that doesn't seem healthy. I think you started by saying it's too hard on the body, but give me sort of some kind of rationale.
Well, so the basic thing is, what question are you trying to answer? And with keto, the question they're trying to answer is, how do I lose weight quickly? And if you put your body into this mode where it feels like it's not getting the fuel it needs, i.e. carbohydrates, yes, it's going to lose weight very quickly. Because the goal of the body is just to stay alive. That's all it wants to do. How do I stay alive? It doesn't care about your long-term health at that point. So yes, if your only goal is to lose weight, keto works. Excellent. So does chemotherapy and taking cocaine or heroin. They also will allow you to lose weight very quickly. But if that's not the question you're trying to answer, the question you're trying to answer is, how do I create ideal health now and in the long term, then keto is not the right answer. So it's more of a question of, what are you trying to do? What is your goal? And for me and for my husband and for our clients at the Whole Food Muscle Club, the goal is long-term health. And part of that is reaching your ideal weight, which you absolutely do, eating plant-based, not as rapidly because you don't do those high and lows that you get when you do keto. Instead, you get more of an even gradual head toward your ideal weight, and then you plateau out. And it's just a much safer, better long-term choice.
Okay, so this is a two-parter.
Okay.
All right. So what is your plate look like in, I don't know if you have 3 meals a day, you may have 2 meals a day, but tell me what your plates look like in the morning, afternoon, and evening.
Sure. So we do daily Facebook Lives. And so if any of your audience is on Facebook, they can definitely find us on Facebook. And we did one recently where we showed people our breakfast. Our breakfast consists of about 1,000 calories. And I only know that because I counted it for a client. We don't care about calories. I don't think about them. But it starts with steel cut oats. I do a third of a cup. My husband does half a cup. We do about a cup of blueberries. And then it has lots of seeds in it. In the wintertime, we do pumpkin seeds and sunflower seeds. Not as much in the summer because it's just too much food for me. It's too hot to eat that much. But it always has ground flax seeds, ground chia seeds, hemp seeds, cinnamon, turmeric, black pepper. And the black pepper is because it makes the turmeric more bioavailable to help with inflammation. What else goes in there? There's some other things that go in there, I'm sure, that I'm forgetting. But that is the basic breakfast.
Do you use any milk products?
No milk, no animal products at all. And we do as little processed food as possible.
So if you were going to drink something, it would be something like almond milk or...
If I'm going to, and that is a processed food. So I do have it in the house. I tend to bake with it. I like to use soy because soy is really good for women of a certain age to help with menopausal symptoms. So I like to use soy milk. I have had oat milk and almond milk in the house. So those are things that we do use.
Okay. I want to get some recipes, but I don't want to forget this. I want you to tell us how to get in touch with you, about your books and all that. And then I'll go back to the real question about eating.
So the main website is wholefoodmuscleclub.com. And that you'll find our Facebook stuff on there. There's a way to email me. There are phone numbers on there. So wholefoodmuscleclub.com is the main place. But if they want the discount to join the Whole Food Muscle Club, that's a secret. You have to go to wholefoodmuscle.com. So without the club /get discount. That's where the discount is to join the Whole Food Muscle Club.
All right. And you also have a book out.
Yes, How to Feed a Human the Whole Food Muscle Way, and that's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, basically all the places books are sold.
All right, so here's my question.
Okay.
So, again, a lot of the discussion is these things just don't taste that great. The big joke is kale, right? And you even see commercials about it. Well, if you soak it in lemon, it breaks it down, so it's better, and that type of thing. So do you create recipes that enhance the flavor a certain way that could bring my audience into, a way of eating?
Yes, the Whole Food Muscle Club has recipes. However, I think that life is so much more exciting if you don't have to follow a recipe exactly. So I'm much more about teaching people how to integrate flavors that they like and being able to use them. So it's more about how to cook this way than it is about here's a regimented recipe that you have to follow. And I find that people are much more successful when they don't have to be, this is the flavor this recipe says I have to eat, so here's what I'm eating.
All right. Dr. Robyn, hold there for a second. I got to cut to our sponsor who makes this all possible and our advertisers. I'm David Yakir. You're listening to Yak About Today. I've got Dr. Robyn Odegaard with me, and we will be back on the other side. I want to take a moment to talk to you about New Vision Eye Center. For the last couple of years, they've been a sponsor of this show, and I couldn't be prouder. I've met so many people that have walked up to me and thanked me for recommending them. I hear all sorts of stories about how they've worked miracles. And as you know, I've been a patient of New Vision Eye Center for years. So when I say go see Dr. Minotti, Reinauer, Tate, and O'Brien, it's because I wouldn't trust my eyes to anyone else. All right, we are back. I'm David Yakir. I've got Dr. Robyn Odegaard with me, and we are talking about her Whole Food Muscle Club. So one of the difficulties, and you have experience with this, and maybe you can tell us a story, particularly if you have experience with this age group. And everybody wants to lose weight, and everybody wants to get healthier, and nobody will do anything about it. They want change, but they don't like change. One of the discussions that we have by the way, I'm married to a chef, and one of the discussions that we have is because people have reached a certain place in their lives, it's so hard for them to make the changes. I mean, it's as hard to make eating changes as it is to get them to go jogging or, walking or exercising. And, you must have a case story about somebody who started in a certain place and you took them and how you took them, there. So if you've got one of those, my audience would eat that up.
No pun intended.
Yeah. I hadn't even thought about it. Okay, sorry.
It's all good. Yeah, absolutely. Most people who come to me do have that cognitive dissonance. There's me, the psychologist, speaking, where they want to make change, but they don't know how and they don't know where to start. And so they don't. And then they feel guilty and then they eat an ice cream. So what do? And one of the things I like to say is you don't have to do this cold turkey. Again, no pun intended. You can do it slowly. It took us 8 months to make this change. So rather than, like I said at the beginning, rather than saying these are the things I don't eat, start adding new things that you do eat. And eat your plate in a different order. If you go to a restaurant, a lot of times they'll set the plate down in front of you and that huge slab of meat protein is right there in the front. And then you've got your little side of broccoli or, whatever, your little vegetables on the top. And when you walk away, if you've ever walked through a steakhouse, the empty plates are always empty of the protein, but still have the potato and the loaded. I always say it's not the potato that makes you fluffy, it's the loaded you put on it. And the broccoli are still there. So instead, turn your plate around. Eat your vegetables first. Don't load your baked potato with the meat, the animal products. Instead, put hummus on it or put guacamole on it and eat that first. And then if you're still hungry, go ahead and have a little bit of the protein. But rather than loading your body with that animal protein, start with your vegetables. That's a great place to start.
Some people think that ultimately, there are so many extremes in how we diet, and you seem to make a lot of sense. I hadn't really thought a lot about what you've been talking about, but where I came to, and it's interesting. Somebody asked me, "Well, how are you eating lately?" And by the way, I am eating much better. I started this thing in our community, and actually, it starts again in September, called WOGing. It's walking, jogging. Oh. Right? So we WOG, and we have a beginners and an intermediate and all that. And that was a very slow process in getting people to do that. Mm-hmm. But everybody seems to think that some kind of middle ground is the healthiest. In other words, instead of giving up animal protein, it becomes maybe the size of what your vegetable side used to be. And, you fill the rest of the plate, which gets me back to recipes. Like, I don't know how to ask this. I'm visualizing a plate at dinner, plates come out and there's a pile of kale and I guess no butter. So it has some kind of, seasoning on it, turmeric.
How about balsamic vinegar? How about
that?
I
love balsamic vinegar. That's good. But what are the other things in the plate? And does it follow the normal way we're eating? You know how we open with a salad, or sometimes we open with our main course and follow it with a salad? And then there's this need our body has for some kind of sugar.
Well, need is a strong word.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe we've been trained. We trained our body to need a sugar. So Give me the plate, because I know we're going to have only a couple of minutes to do this. So give me a recipe.
Quick. All right. So what I like to do is eat what makes you happy. That's basically the bottom line. For me, yes, I love salads, but I like salads with all the fixings on them. I have a big garden. I like to put, the peppers and the tomatoes. I make my own salad dressings. I have a maple syrup mustard recipe that's kind of like a honey mustard with no animal products. I really like that one. I have a carrot ginger one. So there's a lot of different flavors you can do with dressings that are plant-based, and make those big fancy salads with all the things on them. Have your quinoa, have your grains, whatever that might be that you have on the side. Have your beans. Beans are phenomenal food, and there's 101 different kinds of beans that you can choose from. But to your point of you don't have to be 100% to get successful, I ask my clients to start with the goal of being 80%. If they can move toward being 80% plant-based, I will do a happy jig for them. And then at that point, they can make a decision. I never intended to be 100%. That was not my goal. But I started feeling so much better that I ended up there. And so much so that this weekend I was in LA with my family, and they had a hot dog beach party, and it smelled good and it looked good. But I was like, yeah, no, that's not for me.
It wasn't appetizing, or you didn't have? Hot dogs are really good.
They are, but they're a type 1 carcinogen. There's not any real nutritional value to them. They're not a food. And so for me, it's more like if I handed you a rock, you wouldn't eat it. Same for me. When I look at a hot dog, I'm like, yeah, for me, that's not food. But I want to mention the sweets because you said something about sweets. I make plant-based cookies that are phenomenal. I make nice cream that is bananas and cherries, and people love it. The recipe's actually on our Facebook page. So yeah, it's great, wonderful tasting food. It's just a learning curve.
Okay, I got 1 minute. Right.
Okay.
Give me the names of 5 superfoods. I keep hearing about superfoods, and all I know is somebody told me an avocado is superfood, and I really like avocados.
Avocados are great for you, but as far as I'm concerned, there's a lot of different foods that you can eat. Blueberries are phenomenal. Eat your blueberries, eat berries in general. Eat beans. They're really good for you. Quinoa is another great one that's easy and takes on any flavor you put on it. Those are the 3 that I would say if you're going to eat nothing else, eat those.
All right. Once again, how do we get in touch with you?
How to Feed a Human. Nope, that's the book. WholeFoodMuscleClub.com.
All right, and the book is How to Feed a Human. Thank you, Robyn. I'm so thrilled that you came here, and I'm actually going to try it. I'm going to try really moving slowly, very slowly, into a plant-based diet.
Take out the papers
all right,
and the
thanks
trash,
so much.
or you don't get no spending cash. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Just finish cleaning up your room. Let's see that dust fly with that broom. Get all that garbage out of sight, or you don't go out Friday night. Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
You just put on your coat and hat.